All right, it is the Newport This Week video podcast series. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Remember, you can find every episode of this show on the Newport This Week YouTube channel and at newportthisweek.com. We continue our discussion on something that's been in focus for the last several weeks, and it's obviously a story that has been quite prevalent in and out of moments, I suppose is the way to put it. There are moments where this is dominating a lot of conversation, and then there are moments where it kind of goes back to a sub rosa level, and that is the concept of regionalization of Newport and Middletown schools. You may recall now a week and a half ago, the Middletown School Committee essentially took this issue out of the hands of voters. And at the end of the day, when you're talking regionalization of anything, whether it's a fire department or a school department, it is something that ought to be vetted and decided upon by the people. At least I'm making that statement, and I think many people would agree. Charlie Roberts is a is a Middletown town councilor, was a member of the building committee, and was also involved in during the first effort towards regionalization. Charlie, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Executive summary as to where you stand and where Middletown as a municipality stands at this moment with moving forward with potential school regionalization on Aquinic Island.
Yeah, Bill, it's been I was elected to the council in 2024. And right away in January, the topic of regionalization came back up. Which I'm open to myself. I think it needs to be done right. I think it needs to put the kids first. I'm all for that. But, Rhode Island Department of Education has really been wanting us to regionalize with Newport. So we started talking about this again in January. I wrote an opinion letter myself saying, I hope the adults in the room don't mess this up again. And here we are. So I think absolutely, I agree with you. This should go to the voters. That's how I stand on this. I do not want to hold it up. It's not my job to decide if we regionalize. It's my job to make sure that the voters decide that.
Right. It seems as though we've got this is an actual case study, if you will, in when various levels of government, be it mezzanine, which I would call a school committee, a kind of a mezzanine level of government, seem to have an oversized role in shaping the fiscal quality of life and general future of two municipalities, and as such, the entire region. What do you think it is that is causing this breakdown where the the Middletown School Committee, I don't want to say they've punted this because that's not accurate. They've essentially said, yeah, we're good, and too bad if there's interest in this, we're going to intervene. What's your message to the Middletown School Committee and counselors who are not open to the idea of this going before voters?
I'm a little disappointed, honestly, Bill. We had gotten since Newport passed this on their end. They passed an ordinance that they wanted to pursue regionalization with Middletown. We've actually been reached out to by Newport quite a bit, saying, "Hey, let's get together. We need to start working on this." I answered back, and a number of other people as well said, "Hold on, we need to figure this out as a team here in Middletown first." That was our plan. In fact, tonight we were going to eventually, the original plan was for us to get together with the school committee in executive session and have a conversation as a team. It was surprising to see the vote. I didn't know the vote was on the school committee agenda. We had two town councilors there in attendance that didn't let the rest of us know as well. And it's unfortunate that they took this out of the hands of the voters because in 2022, when this went to the voters, 64.4% of voters voted yes, they want to regionalize with Newport. They saw the benefits of this, and it's not just money, although money has a lot to do with education. I mean, I think we all can appreciate that, but the money is a part of this, but it's also offering our students more services. More, both schools are declining in population, and we're not giving the same level of service to our students, in my opinion.
I think that's one of the things that we hear most frequently spoken of when speaking with on an off record or on background basis with parents is or community members, even those that don't have kids in the schools, is they say the fiscal element is a sell and no doubt something that is germane to any conversation about a municipality's health. But first and foremost is educating the children of that community. And if you have an opportunity to move in a direction that is, at least on paper and seemingly in practice, more holistic, more acute to the very specific needs that some students have, and just seemingly better. You wonder what it is that's holding up at least this going before the voters. What are you hearing in terms of opposition?
I think what's disappointing, Bill, is that our kids are already regionalized on so many levels. I coach soccer. There's anything from Pop Warner football to theater classes to everything that we do in this area. We do it together with Newport kids. So there's never a problem with regionalization with the kids. Like that's first and foremost. My son, who's a sophomore at Middletown High School, has friends from Newport. We just got together with them a couple weeks ago. So intertwined. My older kids, same thing. Our daughter dated someone from Newport. It's the kids are together in this. It's disappointing to see adults again take over this conversation and end the conversation, or at least attempt to end the conversation.
Right.
I don't know what's leading it to. It's because many of these people including the chair of the school committee, was absolutely 100% regionalization in 2022. He was there. He actually went to the Newport School Board Building Committee after the election when they found out how over budget things were. He went there and spoke as a taxpayer saying, you did something wrong to the voters of Newport, which didn't allow that regionalization to happen. So many of these folks are all, in fact, even I'll mention Councilor Von Villas. Just in January, she was lecturing the rest of us on the council about how important regionalization is. And now all of a sudden, she's totally against it. I don't understand it.
It's a strange dynamic, and it's something that, as a journalist covering, it's one of those scenarios you go, well, why? There's not a clear answer. Nobody has presented a fiscal picture that is bleak as a result of this. Nobody has presented anything that is speaking to a diminished return on investment for the taxpayer in terms of the quality of education. So in that lane, it's hard to understand. And again, just when you look at other regionalized aspects of other regionalized school districts in this state, Charahoe, Pontiac, in principle, Bristol Warren as well, you always hear about opportunities for additional collaboration and a more sophisticated and nuanced approach to taking on the challenges that everyday students face. And we just don't seem to be on that wavelength here on Lower Aquidneck Island. And to that, my last question would be, what's next here, at least from your vantage point? What's next in this saga?
I think what's next is on our agenda tonight. We are going to be talking about regionalization again. We were hoping to have a conversation with the whole school committee and first an executive session as a team. That's the one thing here. Like we were walking hand in foot to foot with the school committee here, and it hasn't always been that way. I've lived in Middletown since 2008. And there's always been a very tense relationship between the school committee and the town council. That hasn't been the case over the last couple of years. We've got a new superintendent that's doing great things. We got great principals and teachers in our schools. I don't want to slow down any of that progress. We're building a new school as well, which I 100% supported. But again, why are we? I hope to get through to our fellow councilors tonight to say, why aren't we just turning this over to the voters? This is one of those questions that elected officials shouldn't make. This should be made by the voters of this town.
Charlie Roberts, Middletown Town Council, the school regionalization saga on Aquidneck Island. It rolls on. And remember, stay tuned to Newport This Week on the whole, inclusive of this podcast, as we monitor this story that is critical to the island's future and also a case test in the functions of democracy. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Bill.